7 and 8. So the pelvic girdle can rotate in all 3 planes of direction: the sagittal, frontal, and transverse plane. The knee most commonly moves. Okay, this is very weird. Okay. The knee most commonly moves in the sagittal plane through flexion and extension, but when it's flexed, it can also externally rotate a little bit, which occurs in the transverse plane. Now, the motion of the ankle occurs in the sagittal plane through plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. And a lot of people think that inversion and eversion also occur in the ankle joint, but it's actually the subtalar joint. So, ankle, subtalar. Now, the pelvic girdle consists of several different joints, including the pubic symphysis, which is an amphiarthrotic joint, or more specifically, a symphysis joint. Now, what most people think of as the hip joint is this articulation between the acetabulum and the femoral head, which is a ball and socket joint. Now, the ankle and knee are both examples of hinge joints. So, although both are ball and sockets, the hip is a lot more stable than the shoulder. And this is primarily because the acetabulum, which is the socket portion of the ball and socket joint of the hip, is a lot deeper than the glenoid fossa, which is the socket of the shoulder joint. So what's good about the glenoid fossa being really shallow is that it allows for a lot of range of motion in the shoulder. However, and you don't have as much range of motion in the hip. However, this makes the hip a lot more stable. And so we hear a lot more about shoulder dislocations than hip articulations, and that's why. But also, because we're designed to weight bear on our legs, our muscles and ligaments around the hip are a lot more developed than the ones around the shoulder. So there are just a lot of contributing factors which make the hip more stable than the shoulder. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. The weak link in this hip pelvic girdle section is the femoral neck, which is right here. It's this skinny part. That's because it's smaller in diameter than the rest of the bone, and it's also composed of trabecular bone, so it's a little bit weaker in both ways. The knee joint is composed of 2 articulations, the tibiofemoral joint and the patellofemoral joint. Now, the tibiofemoral joint is when the femoral condyles, the lateral and medial condyles of the femur, articulate with the lateral and medial condyles of the tibia. So, right here. And the patellofemoral articulation occurs between the patella and the distal head of the femur. The patellofemoral articulation allows the tendon of the quadriceps femoris, which is a bone extensor, to be inserted directly over the knee, which increases the efficiency of the muscle. So that's interesting. And also, in order to lock the knee, the tibia does this thing where it rotates laterally so that it is able to articulate with the femur a little bit closer. And this occurs during the last few degrees of extension, and it's known as the screw-home mechanism. So it just allows it brings the knee into a close packed position in order to fully extend. So that's it.